Boy el Parai, come to Parai. In this week's parsha, Parshas Va'era, Hashem instructs Moshe Rabbeinu to go to Parai. And he waltzes right in there. No guards. There were animals, the Medrash says, roaming around. You would have imagined that Paro would have avoided Moshe Rabbeinu like the plague, if you know what I mean. And yet, he succeeded in his mission. He walked right in there. And the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says that's because when somebody jumps in, when someone takes a leap of faith, then they will succeed in their mission. And this should serve as a blueprint for us to be able to accomplish great things, even though the odds seem to be insurmountable. I want to share with you an incredible story, a powerful story, a great story that happened with the Maral of Prague. The Maral was a young bacher. He was a prodigy, an Ilui, and everybody wanted him as a son-in-law. Well, Rav Shmelka Reich was a rich man. He set aside a nadin, a dowry, as was customary in those days, and the shidduch was arranged between the Maral and Rav Shmelka's daughter, Peril. Well, 3 years, the Maral went to go sit and learn in a yeshiva, and when he'd be old enough and she'd be old enough, they would get married. In the meantime, Rav Shmelka lost his fortune, all of it. And he sat down to write a very painful letter. And he told the Maral, I'm setting you free. You can go marry someone else. We have no nadin. We have no dowry. But when the Maral received the letter, he said, absolutely not. I refuse to break the shidduch. If you want to break it, and you want your daughter to marry someone else because you feel guilty that you can't support me, I refuse to marry anyone before she is married. Things did not go well for Rav Shmelka. Rav Shmelka fell into a depression. He was sad, he was broken. And his daughter, his wonderful daughter, Peril, opened a little store, a store to support herself and her parents. 10 years passed. Peril is still single. And one day an army comes into the town. And a soldier on a horse, starving, he walks right up to her little outdoor bakery. She sold some loaves of bread. And he walks up to her and he takes his spear and he sticks it into a loaf of bread. And he says, I'll take that. You'll take that? She said, please, don't steal from me. I'm poor and I'm supporting my family. Please, I beg you, don't steal my loaf of bread. Please. Well, the soldier was somewhat sympathetic and he says, you know what, I have no money. I'm a soldier, but you know what I do have? I will give you an extra saddle that I have. I have a saddle. I have 2 of them. And I'll ride in a little bit of discomfort and I will give you my extra saddle. Which he did. Okay, at least she got something. He threw it at her and off he galloped. She sat there. She looks at the saddle. What's she going to do with it? And then she felt it. And she opened it. And there was a little bit of a tear. And inside the pocket, there was a fortune. She looked around. Everyone was gone. And she took it as a sign from Hashem. She ran home. She told her father. And her father immediately wrote a letter to the Maral, who was still a single bacher, waiting. And he said, please come and marry my daughter, which he did. Years passed and the Maral became the Maral, the greatest Torah scholar of his generation, and for many generations. And one day, years later, a bacher walks in and he says, Rebbe, I want to break a shidduch. He says, why? He says, the father-in-law lost his money and there's no nadin. And again, understand that was customary in those days. Well, the Maral says, I will not paskin, I will not allow you to do that in my bezdin, in my court of law. But what I will do is, I will tell you a story. Sit down, young man. And he told him an incredible story, his story. The parsha of Shidduchim is a painful one. But we have to be able to look for the signs from heaven. And Emir Hashem, if we put our faith in Hashem, then and only then will the Yeshua come. Will the salvation ultimately be. This month is the month of Shvat. Stands for Shenis Baser Besurais Toives, that we should hear good news. May we indeed hear great news from everyone.